Hey YouTube, I'm here back with one of my rambles, and of course it's going to be on a serious topic. I've been covering a lot of missing children cases and child abuse that has been going on in my city. Today I want to talk about two cases, and they're very, very familiar or very similar cases. So the first case is about Lakesha Williams out of Houston, Texas. She's a 29-year-old mother who left her 8-year-old and 6-year-old children at home alone to go on a cruise to Puerto Rico for 6 days. So Lakeisha lived at a luxury apartment. So it was one of those multi-floor apartments, really big apartment buildings. And the neighbors are actually the ones who brought attention to this because they were the ones that called the police for a welfare check. They had noticed that the mother had left, Lakeisha had left the apartment with luggage, and they noticed that she had not returned. So the children had told the police that their mom had went on vacation. They had also found a webcam and a phone that the mom was using to check on the kids. Now, we don't know too much other than this. The children were released to the aunt, and the aunt declined to speak on the case or make a statement. Yeah, that's just not old enough to leave children at home alone. I know a lot of the people that I grew up with and before, like the generation before us, were left alone, and they were known as latchkey kids, where they were left alone as early as kindergarten, first grade, and expected to walk to school by themselves, walk back home from school by themselves, and refrain from answering the door if somebody were to knock on the door or sorry, I'm trying to get my window situated right now because it's pretty hot out here. But they were expected to, stay at home, don't answer the door if someone knocks, and to prepare lunch for themselves or after school snack, maybe even dinner, depending on what time the parent may come home or the parents come home. And I knew a lot of people like this growing up, and they said that they never had any issues, walking to school or walking from home. They even sometimes they would leave their house and go hang out with some friends that also didn't have many parents at home and just play outside, and then they would just return back home, lock the door, and wait for their parents to come back. So this is very common that young kids are left alone, but in this day and age, it just doesn't fly. 8-year-old, 6-year-old, legally they're not even old enough, and back in the day they weren't legally old enough either, but 8 and 6, it's just not gonna cut it. Yeah, things have changed, the times have changed, and if anything, she could have just easily have gotten a babysitter or the aunt, to watch them, because my first thing was, why didn't she get a babysitter? Like, what's the thought process with these women? Because we've been seeing the stories. It's been women, the mothers, that are leaving the children for days at a time to go on these trips or to go hang out with friends. And that's another case I wanted to touch on. I need to get the information about that. Maybe I'll add that one at the end of this, or make your own video on that case. But I want to know the process of leaving the kids at home and, just leaving for multiple days. And that leads us to the next case. So this one is out of Cleveland, and the mother is Kristel Candelario. She's 32 years old, and she left her 16-month-old toddler alone in her crib for 11 days while she went on vacation again to Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico is the hot spot right now for the mothers. They are living their best lives out there and leaving their kids behind. And the first red flag is, why are you leaving your kids behind? You can go to Puerto Rico, but just get a babysitter. Just you got the Puerto Rico cruise money, so that means you got the babysitter money. Okay? So, yeah, that's just, again, another thing is that she's already been sentenced. So with Kristel here, she's been sentenced to life in prison without parole. And I feel like that's just appropriate. There's no reason why she should get anything less than that. She left her toddler. Now the other lady left kids that were elementary age, but this one is a toddler, 16 months. Come on now. How are you going to leave her by herself? So Kristel's defense attorneys are claiming that mental health played a role in her decision of leaving the child or the baby by herself. And my thing is, why is everybody always trying to claim mental health? I feel like they're using mental health as a scapegoat, where it's like, well, it's mental health, so she can't be held liable. Now, mind you, people may have mental health, but some people are just evil. It's evil to leave your children but by themselves for multiple days, especially when you are going to go on a cruise and have fun and do all these things while your kids are probably miserable alone. But especially with this case, her 16-month-old, she cannot take care of herself. 11 days, that's almost 2 weeks. I couldn't even imagine leaving a 16-month-old for, like 11 minutes, especially around that age. They're getting into everything, and she definitely cannot feed herself. So mental health is definitely being abused and being used to not be held accountable. I think she's just an evil person, and that's just that's the only explanation for somebody to leave their 16-month-old child alone for 11 days while they go shake their ass and take pictures in Puerto Rico. Now, I think this is the one where, okay, I have my little notes. So the baby was found dehydrated and emaciated. The medical examiner also reported that the toddler had feces all over her body, and she had fecal matter in her mouth, which would indicate that the toddler was trying to, do anything to keep herself alive, even if that meant eating her own feces, because the baby was malnourished. She was trying to get any type of nourishment. If that meant that she had to eat her own feces, the human body's going to do whatever it takes to survive, especially at that age. She didn't know any better, and so her body just went into survival mode, and that's really, really sad. Also, another thing for the mother is that she is faking what we believe, allegedly, that she's faking not being able to speak English so she can gain sympathy. She's in the courtroom speaking Spanish and using a translator. I think that this is probably true because a lot of times we can see someone who has a language barrier as being less understanding of the law and maybe innocent. So I think that's what she was trying to do, is just show that, she speaks Spanish, maybe she's not aware with the culture, and that she's just not aware of the law. But, the judges saw right through that. And she's just an evil mother. She cannot blame it on, even if she's more fluent in English, say, for instance. That doesn't excuse it. It's still evil. You still know better. I mean, people all over the world, all different languages, will know better than to leave their 16-month-old child alone. Period. There's no, escaping that. But she was also claiming to be a depressed single mother and just kind of using woe is me type of defense, like, oh, it's so hard being a single mother and I'm depressed and da. But that still doesn't excuse the Puerto Rico trip. If you're that depressed and you needed a break or you needed some type of a vacation, You could have simply gotten a babysitter. Could have simply gotten somebody to watch the child. You got Puerto Rico money. You have babysitter money. Unless, somebody else, some man or some love interest is funding these trips. I'm not sure how these women are paying for these trips, but I could have easily, cashed out a couple more hundred to go leave the baby at a 24-hour babysitter service or at a family member's home. And that's another part I wanted to touch on, because these cases are so similar, is that where were the fathers? I used to get annoyed when people would ask that, especially about cases like this. People would be like, well, where's the father? Where's the father? And honestly, now that I get older and now that I understand, the dynamics, and I've been seeing a lot of these cases, I think that is a legitimate question. Where is the fathers? Are the fathers not available to watch the children while the mothers go off on a trip and just take a break or whatever? You are allowed to take breaks, you just have to do it responsibly. So a responsible thing would be to leave the children with their father. Now, I don't know if the fathers are just not in their lives, or maybe the fathers have full working schedules. The next best option would be another family member. So maybe a family member on his side, maybe a family member on your side, grandparents, aunts and uncles, somebody that's trusted to the children, and, go from there. One thing that I did want to point out is that a lot of the times family is not very helpful. So a lot of times people, even when they're not single parents, they don't have family that they can depend on to watch the child for whatever reason. I know a lot of people where they can't even ask their parents to watch them, while they go to the grocery store real quick. Because, sometimes it's a lot when the babies are super little, putting them in their car seat, putting them in their stroller. And sometimes you just don't want a little baby out and about like that, especially when they're super little. And you just want to go on a quick grocery run. A lot of people's parents, a lot of people's family members won't watch the child for any reason. Even if the child is going to school and they need after school care or help with dropping them off in the morning, help with picking them up, help with activities, people's families are just not involved. But it isn't until something happens that the family wants to cry and ask, why didn't they reach out? We would have helped. I wish we knew the signs. I wish we saw the signs. And it's just like, if you were involved, then you would have saw the signs. If you were involved, then you would have been able to lend a helping hand. If you were involved to the day-to-day, you would have been able to step in and be the help that the children need. A lot of times, people just cannot do this parenting on their own. And I'm not excusing what they did, because I think they should be held liable to the full extent of the law. But I'm just advocating for families to step in, because a lot of times with abuse cases and these missing children cases, the extended family, or just the extended family, which would include the grandparents, the aunts, and even cousins, or just the family that's in the vicinity, they're just not active. So literally you have this one person taking care of this child. They don't have the other parent. They don't have their family, and they're just the only ones doing it. I think if more families were to step in, and even the fathers were to step in and actually stay around and be active, a lot of these cases of the mothers leaving their children left to die, left alone, would stop. A lot of these missing cases, a lot of these abuse cases, it would stop because there was family involved. A lot of times it's so isolated that no one sees the abuse until stuff like this happens. Now, I'm not going to allege any prior abuse or anything like that, but a lot of times these cases aren't isolated. Who's to say that this is the first time they got left alone? No, this is the first time that they got caught being left alone. So a lot of family we need to start stepping up. We need to start stepping in. Yeah, these people, they have kids, and that's not your, that's their responsibility, and we need to hold them to that responsibility. But when we see our family members not stepping up to the plate, we need to step in, and we need to help. We need to talk to them. We need to really step in for the children's sake. A lot of people don't want to step in because it's like, well, she made that responsibility, she needs to be a mom, blah blah blah. But really, the only person that's hurting is the children. We need to step in. We need to have guidance for that mother. We need to have family be an option for childcare, whether it's remedial, like, running to the store, like I said, or if it is going on a Puerto Rican cruise, like, yeah, you might see it like, oh, this mother shouldn't have to go on a vacation. It's not a necessity, but I much rather would have the babies here alive than for them to be dead. I'd rather the babies be watched by trusted family members while the mother did her thing and still be here. So that's one take that I've recently stumbled across when I was seeing these cases. I'm like, where's the dads? Where's the family? Because so many times the family only pops out and the dads only pop out when something happens. And then it's like a broken record. Oh, we would have been there. I wish I would have been able to see my kid. I wish I would have been involved. And the whole time they could have. At any time you can be an active family member. At any time you can be an active father. Right? So there's no excuse for that. But I don't want that take to be spun and be turned into like I'm not holding the mothers accountable. Once you have a child, as soon as you know that you're pregnant, as soon as you know you're doing things that can get you pregnant, you should know that your life, once you have this baby, is no longer your life. It is yours and your child's life. And your child comes second to you, obviously, because how can you in the right mind raise somebody, But your child is first and foremost. So if that means you got to miss a Puerto Rican cruise, then you got to miss that Puerto Rican cruise. You can go on that cruise once the baby gets a little older, once you find adequate child care, once, we start getting the child involved, or maybe we can get a grandmother more involved, and then that they can be trusted to leave with the kids for however many days you want to go on a cruise. And I just want the families to be a little more open and a little bit more supportive. That way the kids are not being abused or being neglected. Yeah, that's just, like I said, that's just my new take on it. But we definitely do need to hold these mothers accountable and let them know that, hey, you have a child. You cannot go out. You cannot go out at the club. You cannot go to the cruise. You cannot do these things. If you don't have a proper babysitter, you cannot leave the house. Stay inside. You're going to have this time. You got to raise your kids. They're under your care for a few years. And then once they're grown, then that's when you can start taking the Puerto Rican cruises. That's when you can start, really expanding your vacationing and your traveling and you living your best life. Let's raise these children, then go live your life. Or better yet, live your life, then have your children, or don't even have your children. See, a lot of women put themselves in situations where they get pregnant and they're not ready or understand the responsibility of being a mother. So then you have these cases like this. Let's just start being more involved. And moms, start really taking it serious, right? 16-month-old should not be left alone. You should be enjoying your time. You could have took your child to the park, go out, go eat, have a good time. Teach her ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. You how to draw. You could have did all that, but you wanted to run off for 11 days on a fucking vacation. Excuse my language. Same with the other one. The kids were older and they weren't harmed in any way, but 8 and 6-year-old, come on now, 6 days. Luckily she lived in a big building, because then other people, the neighbors, were able to notice what was going on and be able to make that call. If she didn't live in such a big apartment building, maybe people wouldn't have figured hey, where is the mom? I never saw her come back. So, that's good. But just wanted to bring in these cases, very similar, and seems like this is just a pattern of what's going on. Moms, get it together. Get adequate childcare. Bring the fathers into the lives. Bring the family members into the lives. Pretty sure the family members, if you let them be active, you'll get a lot more help. You reach out to people, you'll get a lot more help. A lot of women are suffering in their motherhood because they don't ask for help. They don't have relationships with people. They want to do everything on their own, and it's impossible to. You got to reach out to people. You got to build relationships. That way, the kid could be around their dad. That way they can have that bond with their aunts and uncles and their grandparents. It's okay. You need a break, that's fine. But just reach out for help. And there's also resources that can help you pay for childcare. Don't just leave your kids by themselves. And just like, with the 16-month, that's unexcusable. It's completely unexcusable. And that's why she got life in prison. Yeah, there was one more case that I wanted to address. I'm going to have to get that info on it, and then I'll go ahead and make the video. But yeah, tell me what you guys think, and tell me what's the solutions, because we see these cases all the time, and we point out the problems, but what are the solutions? What can we do? My personal solution is for women to understand the seriousness of motherhood, also understand that they can reach out for help, build those relationships and those bonds with the fathers, with the children, and just reach out for help. There has to be some type of avenue that you could take that's better than just leaving your children alone. Okay? Because there's no excuse. There's no excuse for it. There's always got to be a solution. And if you can't find one, then you need to just stay at home. Period. And that's another solution. If you were to stay at home, you will be okay. But let me know what you guys think are the solutions. Bye bye.